This is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. Happy holidays! Today is our first layout of our 12 layouts for Christmas, and I'm excited to bring it to you. This is a sketch or a CM blog idea that came from a couple years back, and it's a fun one. It's kind of like a puzzle, so I hope you enjoy it. It uses up some scraps, so if you have a lot of Christmas paper scraps around, this layout is a great go-to for that. It does have you cut paper in to certain specifications, and there is one paper that I miscut, and I will point that out to you as we go, or I will ask my editor to point it out to you, because actually I didn't notice that I miscut it until I got to the end of the video. But I'll have him make sure and put the correct dimensions for you so that you don't miscut it. Okay? I think you'll like this one. Let's check out my workspace and we'll get started. All right, so this is my workspace for our first layout of the season. And you may or may not recognize this. This came from the Creative Memories blog back in 2019, which was 5 years ago, guys. Long time ago. But this is a fun layout for using lots of remnants. So if you have, if you keep a power layout folder full of all of your Christmas paper, I'm sure you have lots of different remnants of your paper, scraps of your paper that you have tucked in there. And so this is a great one for pulling those out and combining some of them and making them into a fantastic page. Now I'm going to just be doing a single page for you today, but you are going to see this when I do a flip through of my holiday album eventually. You will see that I have turned it into a 2-page spread. So to turn it into a 2-page spread, you can mirror it and just flip it this way, or you can do a completely separate layout over on this next page. Either way will look just fine with a layout like this because of the fact that it sort of looks like it's a puzzle that you have put together. So it just depends on the photos you have to work with and the papers that you have available and the different sizes that you have available. Okay, so this, once again, I'm only going to put together the single page today, but just know that when it goes in my album, it will definitely be a 2-page spread because y'all know how I am. So let's go ahead and we'll get started with this. So we have a number of different pieces of paper that I pulled out. These actually come from Christmas Charm, which is the Christmas paper pack that came out for 2024. And as I'm recording this for you, this paper pack is currently unavailable. It sold through its first order of the product. They have promised us that it's coming back and it's supposed to be available before November is over. So the clock is ticking, right? Because today is the kind of the last day of November as you're watching this. So hopefully by the time you're watching this, this paper pack will be available again. And if not, hopefully soon. And we will be having new products launching on Monday, so it's entirely possible that they will announce that it's now available again at that launch, but we'll see what happens. It's been a very popular paper pack, so if you did not get it the first time around, you'll want to jump on that as soon as it is available. and I will try to update the description of this video with a link to the paper pack as soon as it is available. I have another layout or another video that I recently put out that uses this paper pack, and actually a couple of them. So when the paper pack is released again, I'll try to update all of those for you guys so that finding that link is easy. But let's go ahead and get started. And a couple things I wanted to point out as we get started here. I will also post a link to the Creative Memories blog, which is where I found this, so that you can go ahead and go there and print out the instructions if you want, and then work along with the video with the instructions in front of you. I know that that can be helpful sometimes, and it's especially helpful for this particular one because, as you see, I've written notes like all the way around here, measurements for the different pieces. But in the blog post, you'll see they actually have provided you with all of the measurements. So that makes it really simple and easy, or at least more simple and easier. And so I'll make sure and put a link to this in the description of the video as well, so that you can go in and access that easily. Also wanted to point out that in the sample that they have here, they have used some embellishments, and those embellishments, though they are not the same for what we're going to do, I am going to use a Christmas tree that comes from the embellishment pack for the Christmas charm, and I'm going to use some mats. And I'm going to use the mats in place of paper in some instances. So like this one with the saying, "May your days be merry and bright," will be cut. This one with the stockings on it will be cut and take the place of some of the papers that are in this. Okay, so let's, I'm just thinking to myself that I need a base paper. For some reason I did not pull a base paper, so let me do that real quick. Alright, so I'm just going to use a piece of dark green cardstock, which may make it a little bit more difficult to see on my green mat that I'm using, but hopefully it won't be too bad. Alright, so I'm going to grab my 12-inch trimmer, and we're going to cut some pieces here. Let's start with this red paper that's down here. And let me get some of the rest of this out of the way. We'll get to it eventually. Just going to set it up there so that we've got our base page, which I will set here so that I can add pieces as we go. I've got permanent and repositionable adhesive also here that I will be using, but probably mostly the permanent today, except for on the embellishments that need to be added. Alright, so I made myself some little sticky notes so that I would remember all the different pieces that need to be cut from each different paper. Okay, so we need to cut a piece. These are all very different measurements. So let's go ahead. We're going to cut a piece that is 5 1/4. So I'm going to measure 5 1/4 wide. Then we're going to turn that and measure 4 3/4. That seems like an odd measurement. But that is the measurement for there. 4 1/4, not 4 3/4. Ah, okay, so 5 1/4 and by 4 1/4. That's why it looked so odd. It just didn't look quite right. Alright, so that piece is going to go there. Then we need a 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. So we're going to measure 3 3/4 this way. and we're going to turn it, and we're going to measure 4 1/4 this way. And this one is going to be down here. This one's going to be up here. All right. And then I also need to flip it over, and I need one that is 3 1/4 by 1 1/2. So that is not wide enough. It's only 1 inch wide. So we're going to go with, okay. So let's see. I'm just looking at the different patterns in the paper to see what might be nice. 1 1/2, 1 1/2 by 3 1/4. Let's go with this side. 1 1/2 and then 3 1/4. Okay. 1 1/2 and 3 1/4, and that's the stripe that's going to go down here in this corner. All right. So that paper is done. If we need it, we can always go back to it. All right, so let's check out this paper with the trees. This paper has the trees and the gold on the back, which is super cool. This one we want to be 7 1/2 by 1 3/8. So 7 1/2 by 1 3/8. That's this strip right here. Okay, and so I want my Christmas trees to line up for that. So I want 1 3/8. Let's see what 1 3/8 gets me for cutting it there. I think I'm going to trim this at the very top of my tree. I'm going to actually, let's see if we can trim it on this side. I'm going to trim it at about 3/8 of an inch. Okay, that's going to give me my my piece I can flip over and journal on if I want to, the gold. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that there. Then now I've got my trees, and I can cut my trees. Nope. Okay, I'm sorry. I keep having to go back because I want my trees to be seen above. Set that over there. Okay, I'm going to do this at 1 3/8 now. That's the cut we're looking for, 1 3/8. And then we're going to turn this and cut it at 7 1/2. So I need my arm out for that. 7 1/2. Okay, so this is the piece that will go across here, and then we're going to cut this at 7 1/2 as well, and that way it can go across there and either be decorative or it can be a little bit of a journal space for places and dates. So this can go right across the bottom under our trees. All right, so now we have one more piece we need to cut from this. Oh no, we already cut that. That was this strip right here. Okay, so we're going to set that one aside. And I'm going to set that aside. Okay, so now I'm going to use this paper with the ornaments on it. Come off there. All right. So now we're going to cut, I'm going to cut one, let's see, we need one that's 2.5 by 3 3/4. That's going to be the plaid on the back. But I also am going to use one with a similar measurement for the ornament side, and the ornament side is directional. So let me just check and see which pieces those are so we can make sure the ornaments are going the right direction. All right, so this one's going to be plaid. This one is going to be the ornaments, and it's just barely around the edge, but we want to make sure that the ornaments are going the right direction. Okay, so I'm going to turn these going sideways, and we're going to cut this at 3 3/4 inches. So 3 3/4 inches. And then from this piece, we're going to turn this and we're going to cut at 4 3/4. This is going to be a mat that goes up here. Then we're going to cut one at 2.5 inches. And we're going to flip it over and use the plaid side. That's going to go up here in the corner. And we're going to use we're going to slide that over again and cut it at 4.5 inches. And then we're going to turn this piece and cut it at 3 1/4 inches. So now it measures 4.5 by 3 1/4. We're going to flip that over to the plaid side again, and that will go down here. Okay, so like that. Now I also need a piece that is going to be 1 3/4 by 4 1/4. So 1 3/4. Wait just a moment though. We need our ornaments to be going this way because it's this piece right here, and so the ornaments need to be going the right direction. So 1 3/4 by 4 1/4. So I'm just going to trim that off there. We're going to turn it and we're going to cut it at 4 1/4. This piece goes here. All right. And then I'm missing this tiny piece here in the middle. So we'll come back to that in just a second. Let's cut these mats. So we need 5 1/8 by 3. So this is one of the mats that comes with the Christmas charm collection. And the way that I determine how I'm going to cut a mat, if I'm wanting to try to get it centered, is I calculate this measurement, which is going to be 5 1/8 times 3, or 5 1/8 by 3, and half of 3 is 1 1/2. So the halfway mark here is 1 1/2. So I find 1 1/2 here on my trimmer, and that line should go right down the center of whatever it is that I want to have in my layout. So I'm going to cut there. I'm going to save that because you never know when I might need that holly. I'm going to turn it and I'm going to cut it at 3 inches. Okay, so this is now lining up at 3 inches. We're cutting the other side, saving that. All right, going to grab my pencil and erase this measurement off the front that I wrote there just to help me. And then we need this to be 5 1/8. Half of 5 is 2 1/2, and half of 1/8 is 1/16. 1/16 is the shortest little marker on your ruler on your trimmer. So 2.5 plus 1/16 is going to be the center of my mat, which is going to be roughly there. So just trying to make it look as meant to be there as possible. Okay, so then we're measuring out to 5 1/8 and trimming off the other side. May your days be merry and bright. And this one's going to go right here. Okay. Then I need the one for down here, which is going to be this stocking piece right here, which is going to be 5.5 by 2. And this one is a little easier because I'm just measuring from the 2-inch mark, and it will take off that excess. Then this is a 6-inch this is a 6-inch photo mat. So in order to cut it down to 5.5, I'm just going to take 1/4 off each side. 1/4 of an inch, remember, is to the very edge of my mat strip. So I just cut 1/4 of an inch off that side, turn it, and cut 1/4 of an inch off this side, and that final measurement out here should be 5.5. All right, so this one is going to go down here like so. Okay, so I did miss this piece right here, and that piece is going to be 3 by 3/4 of an inch. And I'm thinking that I ought to make that from, I don't know, maybe we should add the gold there. Should we add the gold there? Let's try it. So 3 inches. This was just a remnant, a scrap of my paper. 3 inches and 3/4 of an inch, which is going to be this one right here. Okay, so that one's going to go right in there. All right, so let's go ahead and work on assembling this. And I'm going to leave my trimmer out because I'm going to need it, I think, again in just a few minutes. So let me move that over, and we'll move this over, and we'll start getting this assembled. We're going to give the outside edge, I think what I'd like to do is give the outside edge a good 1/8 of an inch border. I think that will be nice, and that will help finish this well. Okay, so placing the corner pieces, I think, is the most important part, to get those in the right spot. And once you have the corner pieces in the right spot, you can finesse the pieces in between so that everything looks balanced. Okay, so we'll do those pieces, and we'll come over here and do this big one. Come over and do this one. And if you need to measure, go ahead and measure. No one's going to give you a hard time. If you need to measure to make sure that everything has a good that's interesting. I think I would have made one of those a little bit wider. Maybe I'll scooch that over. I might make that, recut that. I may recut that. We'll see. Let's see how the rest of this pans out. Remember how I said this is like a puzzle? It truly is like a puzzle. And you kind of have to play with it until everything balances. Alright, so I think with that piece there, we'll move this one just a smidge so that that lines up. I really think dimensions on these two probably need to be adjusted though. Okay. All right, that works. Let's do this one. It's fun to play with your mats and do something different with them like this. I feel like I don't use my mats enough. I need to use them more often, and so this helps me use some of my mats in a more creative way. I like it. This one, that's very tight in there. It's rather like creating a quilt. You cut all the pieces and you hope everything goes together right. You hope the person who did all the measurements measured everything twice. Alright, let's see if this one, let's see how this one works. That one works pretty good, I think. Alright, so now I have a couple of things all ready to go on here. This particular embellishment is going to need to be trimmed, and he's supposed to go on there, but I feel like he kind of gets lost on there. So I wonder what it would look like if we flipped him. I kind of like that. If we flip him over, I like that. Gives more of a shadow look, kind of. And I'm going to take this piece off for a couple of reasons. One, because we noticed that it didn't quite fit. So this was the 2.5 by 3 3/4. So where is my, here it is. Let's just cut a new piece. I will be happier with another piece. And instead of it being 2.5 by 3 3/4, I'm going to cut it at 3 3/4 by 2 5/8. So 2 5/8 by, and I just want to make sure, 3 3/4. Because I really feel like that, yes, that fits so much nicer. Okay, so we will go with that, and we're gonna take our tree and we're gonna kind of shadow it. Like so. I think I didn't quite get all of my tree with adhesive, so let's put a little adhesive on the outside part of that. All right, so now I'm going to take my trimmer and I'm just going to trim off the extra of this tree. Need to go a little bit closer. Or I might need to just use my scissors. Do it the fiddly way. Huh, ladies? Because it's just not quite getting close enough. And I'm afraid I'm going to trim my paper instead of trimming the embellishment. There. Scissors for the win. Okay. And this will go in that upper corner. Here. I like that. I like that we turned it over. Okay. And I have a couple of these new photo mat things to go in the different pictures. So let's see if we can figure out what I was going to do with these. All right. So that you can see which size goes in here, I'm going to trim 1 inch off of this one and make that 4.5, 4.5 by 3.5. And that one goes there. So in case you can't see that, let me just write it on there so you can see it better. So 3, it's 4.5 by 3.5. That's the size photo that goes there. Sometimes my nails are, oh, Look, it's printed on the other side. I should have flipped it over. All right. That's what happens when you're new. Okay. And then this one is going to be 4 1/4, 3 by 4 1/4. So this one's going to look a little short, but it's going to go in here like so. It's going to be actually 4 1/4 by 3. And then this one I need to take a 1/2 inch off so it fits properly. This one's going to be 5. It's going to be 4 by 5. Oh, which is interesting. So I cut this mat wrong. That's why that gap is so wide. That should have been wider. So let me check on that, because that should have been 4 1/4, and I cut it at 4. That's the difference. Okay. Well, these are the things that we learn, right? I'll just have to trim my photo a little bit closer. And this one is 3 1/2 by 4. Okay, so I'll write that on there for you again. So 3 1/2 by 4. And this one should be 4 by 5, because the mat should be 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. So that was my bad. I cut it wrong. All right, so what we need are some other cute embellishments to add to this. Although we don't need too many, because we've got these down here, which are kind of like embellishments. This up here, which is an embellishment. And we've got this over here, but maybe just a little holly sticker or something would look nice. I've got it. I know exactly what to put there. These cute little holly berries and a sprig of greenery will make a beautiful, cute little accent. For May Your Days Be Merry and Bright. And I think I would just leave it at that. What a fun page. It's fun to do something different, and I haven't done anything quite like this in a while. So thanks for bearing with me. It goes together, I think, pretty quickly if you just follow the measurements and kind of just think about the different colors and where you want the different colors to be. Sorry for my missteps, but I hope that they were helpful in watching how I overcame them or what I had to do to fix them. And I really think this is not too bad right here. I think it will be just fine, and I may move that over, just depends. But if I move it over, it'll wreck the line around the edge, so maybe not. I don't know, we'll see. But I can journal across here. I can journal a little tiny bit in here if I want to. So I'm pleased. I think that's a cute page. I will work on the one that faces it over here, or over here, probably over here. Thanks so much for joining me today. I think it's a fun way to kick off the holiday season, or the Christmas season, to be more specific, since we just finished Thanksgiving. I hope you had a beautiful, wonderful, and safe Thanksgiving and enjoyed spending some time with loved ones, whether they are family or not. And until next time, we'll continue our Christmas layouts next week. Next week. Sorry, I'm trying to remember when this is going to air for you. So I hope you have a beautiful weekend, and I will see you Monday. Until next time, I hope you have many more creative moments. Enjoy your day. Happy holidays!